Pop, what's going on, man?
We are back.
We are back.
After a
Little
short
mini bye for the
hiatus.
boys. Short hiatus, long week. It's it's time, man. It's time. This is the moment. I hate to say this is the moment, but it feels like this might be the moment. Jaden currently out with a hamstring injury, and Marcus Mariota is going to start, and we are going into Monday Night Football at 3 and 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Um,
We're 4-3. Only one game better.
Yeah, fair, fair. The two teams, it feels like trending in a little bit of opposite directions.
100%. 100%.
Kansas City started off a little slow, seems to have found something. We started off feeling pretty excited about the season, that big win over the Giants to start the year, and then kind of coming back and doing what we did against Vegas with Jaden out. And then things have just kind of taken a turn for the worse since that 2-1 start. So
Well, you think, at this point, someone was asking me during the week who I thought the best teams were. And I'd say right now, in terms of who I think is playing the right best ball, I think it's Kansas City and Detroit. And look at what they did to Detroit.
yeah,
They whooped them.
and just
So it's a
like
little scary in terms of, like you said, where they're trending after a rough start. Maybe a good omen for the Commanders. They're starting to get their weapons back. They
yeah,
were weaponless, and you saw what that did to that team early in the season.
yeah.
Now Pat's getting his weapons back. So,
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like watching like you see like sometimes like two people wrestle and then they got the guy in a headlock and he's just kind of twitching and he's trying to go for the legs. That was like what was watching the Kansas City Detroit game. It just felt like Detroit couldn't get anything going and Kansas City just had like it was just like a boa constrictor. Like they just had him there and just slowly just like suffocating them. And it's early. We're going to break the whole thing down. But if you ask me what to expect from this game on Monday night, I would tell you probably something similar. Um, I'm not a betting man. We're a betting program. Um, and I don't know. There was a second there where I tried to get an NBA joke in, but I couldn't think of anything witty enough. We are a betting program here.
Wiz are
Um,
hot.
hey, man. Hey, man. Might finally have something to watch. I kind of regretted missing that game last night. George took off hot. Trey looks good. Should be fun. Anyways, let's talk a little Marcus Mariota. So Jane Daniels is out. Obviously, I would say that's the biggest headline nationally. Locally, the biggest headline is probably the Debo and Terry are back, right? But with this kind of like a two prong question here. What do we expect with Marcus Mariota, and then what impact will Debo and Terry coming back have on the offense? So these two things I think they're so codependent on one another that I want to combine them into one question. Pop, what are your feelings on this one?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, it's disappointing to have Jaden out again, just when he's coming back and starting to look like himself. And I really think he could have made a difference in that Cowboys game. He goes back down on a freak play. And, we always said with him, the number one concern is keeping him on the field because when he's been on the field, he's been, borderline spectacular. But hopefully, it's nothing long term, nothing too serious. I think in order for us to have any chance to make a run this year, we've got to get healthy. But I think, look, having, starting with Debo and Terry, having them back is huge because, look, Debo was keeping things held together. And the last great game we had was out in LA. And you saw
Yeah,
how other players were running wide open because not only teams need to account for the quarterback, and I think they do need to account for Marcus Mariota, not as much as Jaden probably in terms of the dynamic aspect of things. But they have to account for Debo because he can beat you in so many ways, right? And it
yeah,
it does that focus on him allows for other guys to be running wide open. We've seen Luke McCaffrey running wide open in certain situations. And if you break down the play, it's because the team was keying or paying more attention to Debo. So, and then you add Terry to the mix, who can give you that deep threat, who can beat you in so many different ways, can win those catches, can make those clutch catches when you really need them, it's big. No matter
Yeah.
who's at quarterback, having those two guys back is big. And, I think it's just great to have them back. And I think they can be, you know, a dynamic 1-2 punch. I'm not going to say they're the best in the league, but they have the ability to be at least be in that conversation when they're healthy. And that's huge. And I think Debo is really what makes this offense go at this stage.
Yeah, I agree. Debo's a stud, man, and that's like having him back is going to be absolutely massive. It's hard to project what having Terry back is going to look like because he's been out for so long. He started the season a little slow and he was playing. So it's like it's a little bit weird to say like we don't know what version of Terry McLaurin we're going to get, but that's kind of how I feel. Because like historically he's been Mr. Consistent, right? But you kind of
But
don't know.
defenses have to pay attention to him. Yeah, I agree. Like you
Yes.
may not expect peak Terry McLaurin, in his first game back,
Yeah.
but defenses, and I think we can expect Pete Debo. I think
Yeah.
he got that week's rest that he needed. Um, but yeah, but I think maybe it helps the other guys out, because they can't
Definitely.
pay as much attention, and I think we've seen some splashes out of Luke and out of Jalen, right? And I think get those guys the ball in space. They've proven that they can do a little damage, right?
Yeah.
Probably not the greatest hands, not the greatest route runners in the world, but if they get the ball in space, they can do some damage. We've seen that in the kick return game from both those guys.
Sure. But I think this is just going to kind of open up a lot about the offense and in terms of like guys being where they're supposed to be on some of those like quick hit routes, like all those like little things. Like people don't understand. Like if you run a comeback and you take one or two too many steps before you make that cut, that's all timing. And so it looks like, oh, Jaden missed the guy by 5 yards, when in reality, Jaden put the ball exactly where he was supposed to be. But the guy took too many steps, and now the timing of the routes off, all that stuff. So in terms of Mariota, I think defenses have to account for Mariota in a different way than they do Jaden because you see
Yeah,
like if you zoom out, right, it's two mobile quarterbacks, and that's correct. I think Mariota and Jaden are actually both very good, if not elite, at different things with their legs. I think Jaden is as good of a scrambler, if not the best scrambler in the NFL. Um, Mariota, not as much of a scrambler outside of structure guy, but Mariota is elite in the read option, which is an area where I actually think Jaden could stand to improve. Um, he's Mariota just always seems in those zone reads, he always seems to know when to pull the ball. And it's
he
like,
seems
I don't
to
know if you
love running that play. He absolutely just seems to love running
well,
it. You know,
he's elite at it. He's one of the
real
best
good at it.
ever
Yeah,
at that play, at those zone reads because I don't know if you have this feeling, Pop, when you watch it, but when I'm watching Mariota, I'm like, oh my god, with Jaden's athleticism, if he got that same, and the defense is keying for Mariota to run too. So it's are they dropping an extra guy into the box with Jaden? Where's the delta? Because if Jaden made that same decision, Jaden might go for a house call with his speed. Mariota's obviously just probably a step slower than Jaden at this point. I think just about everybody in the league is about a half a step slower
well,
than
I think
Jaden.
I
But
think an advantage you gain is that I think there's a natural tendency of a defense with Jaden being out to kind of relax a little bit in
yeah,
terms of spying the quarterback, in terms of all those extra things they have to do with a Jaden. And Marcus can do some of those things as well, right?
yeah,
So I think they have to lean into that, in my opinion, because I think the way to move the ball here is the fact that you have Debo back, you've got Terry, you've got the run game with Bill and others, right? You want to keep them guessing. You want them to
yeah,
not really know. Whereas because of our lack of receivers the last couple of games, an unhealthy Debo, no Terry, they've been able to stack the box and try to take Jaden's dynamic away, take the running game away. I think this with Debo and Terry back, we've got an option to mix it up a little bit and keep them guessing a little bit more,
definitely.
which is really how Cliff's offense clicks. It's really the key to it. It's
Yeah,
not being able to key in on any one given thing. And I think as a result of that, we might see the run game, a resurgence of the run game.
definitely. I hope so. But yeah, I think the biggest thing on impact for me when it comes to Terry, and having Mariota there is I think 3rd and 5, 4th and 2. These key downs, these key situations. We looked at like being 29th in the league on third down right now, or something like that. They were like that going into the Giants game, and they were, or going into the Cowboys game, and they were atrocious on third down in that game. So it can't be any better. But having Terry, having those reliable hands and the ability to just throw a contested catch, throw a 50-50 ball if you're under pressure to McLaurin, knowing that he's probably going to come down with it. I think that's where you'll see, for me, I think that's the biggest impact out of all of these things right now is that, okay, yeah, Marcus can run. I think Kansas City's defense will be well prepared for what he can do. But I think having Terry back and just having those safety blanket moments, having those moments where, okay, even like, 2nd and 12, you just need to catch a 6-yard out route to give yourself something manageable. Like even those little situations, having McLaurin on the field in those moments to either just get the layup or distract the defense, pull the defense in one way, feign the layup, and then have something else easy underneath. I think that'll be key. The
Marcus
issue for
Marcus
me,
tends to like to feed Terry too, which is I
yeah,
think you see him look that way a little bit more. It
yeah,
seems to me, which I
the
think for this particular game is something that I think would be a really good thing to see.
yeah,
Get him
the issue.
involved early, right? Since he's got some rust on him,
Correct. I think the issue for me is going to be this defense at the end of the day.
for
And I
sure.
think it's what everybody's saying, right, at this point is like, it don't matter. You can put 2007 Patriots out there offensively. If you're giving up 40 plus, now you've given up 40 points twice this season. You're giving up 30 bombs. Like, if you're giving up that much defensively, how do you fix that? And both Quinn and Joe Witt have talked about making adjustments to allow the players to think less and react faster. Um, Personally, I think that particular sentiment is, I'm not going to buy it until I see it. I think that's kind of lip servicey at this point because why, if you have to make adjustments 7 weeks into the season to do that, why is that something that's not, the players should be thinking less and reacting once they come out of training camp, right? That should be the idea. So I understand you need to see some things you might be getting snagged on, some particular calls you might just not be getting right. But that is coach speak, in my opinion. What I hope is not coach speak is that it was mentioned directly that Jordan McGee and Kay Madrano are going to be seeing the field more this week. I'm hoping we're going to start to see some like 3-4 or 3-3-5 packages. They're also going to start working Johnny Newton on the edge, which I think could be exciting.
Javon Kinlaw,
Um, or
not
Kinlaw on
Johnny
the edge.
Newton. Yeah,
Excuse me. I saw something
no,
about Newton. But maybe, but perhaps both. Maybe just Kinlaw and then Newton's working in the middle.
I
We're going to
heard
need
them
to.
specifically mention Kinlaw,
Yeah,
which makes sense if you just think of the type of players, right?
we're going to need to see more Johnny Newton this week because Deron Payne is banged up.
Yeah, I hope
We
he
won't
plays.
we won't know if he's going to go until
But I
probably
think
right before the game.
regardless, if Deron is banged up and can't go, I still think they should stick to the plan of using Kinlaw more on the edge because we've got a little depth, with Eddie Goldman and others. Shelton Day's played pretty well. Holmes is back, so I think that I would rather see them leverage Kinlaw more as an edge rusher or on that end, at least to try to seal the edge a bit better than what we've been doing.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how that works out. But so having McGee and Madrano on the field, what do you think that's gonna lend itself to, Pop? How do you feel about that?
You just don't know, right? I mean, they're young guys. McGee has flashed at times. We haven't seen anything of Madrano. So I agree with you. Like, it's great coach speak. It makes for really good, podcasting or talk radio. But, we have got to see him execute. I think getting more speed on the field in general is a good idea. And it was interesting to hear both DQ and Joe Witt Jr. talk. I mean, it even seems like maybe, we're not going to see guys on the field that we're used to seeing, on every snap, right? That these guys may come in and might be more of a true rotation to see them get more snaps. But I think injuries have played a big role in this defense too, and it's not a unit that we've invested enough talent in where you can really deal with losing three defensive ends. Now you're four deep in that group. And, of course, Will Harris, I think that was a huge loss, to the defensive back group.
Yeah,
So I don't know. That's the thing that really holds you back from getting too excited about the chances for this game. I agree with the comments you made earlier there. But they've got to make some changes, right? I mean, they clearly need to make some changes. So I'm glad that they're leaning into that and doing everything they possibly can. And there's a big argument: is it scheme? Is it talent? Yeah, I tend to lean that it's been more talent, lack of talent than scheme. But I think the scheme can get a little arrogant, a little at times. In other words, you've got to match the scheme to your talent, and I don't know that they've done a really good job of doing that so
yeah.
far.
I
In
think
fact, I think you could clearly say they haven't. Right?
my opinion is just that if you're gonna bail the offense out for what is Jaden supposed to do with his top three receivers out? It's hard to what was this defense supposed to look like when you lose two of three now at this point with Armstrong, you lose your three top DNs to season-ending injuries with Armstrong, who was playing well, but was the only guy on the end. And then you lost Jean Baptiste and you lost Wise very early in the
Wise
season.
was a big loss.
It's hard to know. And I mean, Wise was playing so well in the run game, and the whole point of bringing Wise in was a savvy veteran to seal the edge.
Look,
Um,
I think we've done a great job staying focused. I could probably do a whole other podcast on, the fan base and the reaction to all this thing. Look, for me, it's pretty simple, right? They're just injured. They've had horrible luck with injuries. The volume of injuries in seven short games. Just imagine what they could have done with a healthy 5, 1, and 17 through 7 games. Just those three guys being consistently out there. It's just a banged up team, and that's the big story for this season. It really is. And people are like, I mean, my one bugaboo. I love that word. My one bugaboo is on Terry McLaurin, right? I mean, people are ready to write him off as his career is over because he sustained the first, 3 or 4 game stretch where he couldn't play because of an injury. Come on, it's ridiculous. The guy can still play. He's still an elite receiver, and we need him out on the field. It doesn't mean that suddenly because he turned 30 and he got his first injury, maybe I think it had more to do with the fact that he held out, and that's a long story. But, come on, people, let's just chill a little bit. And how about we just root for the team and root for them to do well? And yeah, it's a long shot Monday night, but the attitude that I've got going into that game is just let's see what they can do. Let's see. It's exciting to have Terry and Debo back. Let's see what they can do. Let's see. We're going to need. It's not one of the keys, but we're going to need the performance of a lifetime out of Marcus Mariota to win this game, and he can do it. He can do it.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I say we start breaking down the game itself, man. We've talked about
Yes.
the Commanders side of things well, so I say we start breaking down the game. So at the end of the day, you've got Monday Night Football prime time. Lights have never been brighter. Commanders are 3-4. Chiefs are 4-3 at Arrowhead Stadium. This was, remember, a lot of people said this was our first loss of the year going into the season. Different
That was
beast,
optimistic.
different times. Yeah, different different world. Pop, the trademark optimist, had the Commanders at like 8-9 for the year. Uh, that's also not true if you go back and check the pregame pod, but likes to say it now. But the Chiefs, look, man, the bottom line is the Chiefs have the capacity to be the best team in the NFL any given week with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback and Andy Reid running that offense. And just as importantly, Chris Jones on the defense and Steve Spagnuolo running that defense. They've got the true recipe to what I think is the most important how to win consistently in the NFL, which is you have a game wrecker on defense and you have an elite quarterback. Those are the two things you absolutely need to consistently win. And they have both of those things. And in the meantime, the one thing they haven't done so great this year, which I said this about the Bears too, and they did this, they haven't ran the ball so great this year. Patrick Mahomes has been the leading rusher in like a lot of the games. Um, but I mean, Pacheco's a talented kid. They can definitely do it. I don't think
I like their
Pacheco,
backs.
yeah,
I like their backs.
I think they're average, but I think Pacheco has the capacity to go off like any talented NFL running
They don't
back
commit
does.
to the run game. They never have.
But overall, like it's you can get into every nuance of this scouting report that you want to, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to there's nobody better at managing the game and making plays when they need to be made than Mahomes in the league right now. There's nobody better, and that's why they were 15-1 last year in all those close one-score games. That's why they've been a winning team pretty consistently throughout the course of the tenure with Reed and Mahomes there. I think at the end of the day, we'll get into our keys, but you've got your work more than cut out for you here. I will say there is no better opportunity to light a fire under this team than to go on the road, upset this team when you have no idea who is going to you think they have no chance. There's no better way to light a fire under this team than to go in there, have a gutsy road upset with your backup quarterback. All of a sudden, you're 4-4. You've got the whole world ahead of you. Jaden's back next week, hopefully with Debo and Terry. You'll have the whole offense on the field at 500. There would be no better way to, if Dan Quinn and company and everybody wants to really go out there and say, we are who we told you we were, this is your chance. This is a heck of a chance to do that and to just silence everything. I'm not holding them to that because you've got a backup quarterback on the road in Arrowhead. I'm realistic, but this is a real chance to put all your cards down on the table and say who you are. And I would hope to think that that message is getting home to all the players, and Quinn is preaching that this week.
Well, we
Shall we
all
get
do
into our?
it. We all do it, right? I mean, I've gone through the schedule and tried to find wins, and try to take an optimistic look at, you know, how we can get to 10 wins, which have to go 7-3. The reality is you got to steal one. You got to steal this Chiefs game or the Detroit game. You've got to be able to go steal one. I'm just, the other thing with Kansas City that you didn't mention that I would is that their weapons are really starting to. I mean, they're getting healthy, and guys like Xavier Worthy and Rasheed Rice, and even some of their depth guys like a Hollywood Brown. I mean, they've got weapons. They've reloaded at the weapon spot. I mean, would you like to have like a Juju Smith-Schuster as your fourth receiver if you were the Commanders? Like, they've got
I would
some
like to have
weapons.
Hollywood Brown as my third receiver. I am not a
Exactly.
I'm not
That's my
a I'm not a
point.
Juju guy personally, but I mean I
But
was all for I was hammering hitting the table for Hollywood Brown in the offseason.
so
But
they've got some weapons and they've got some speed. And obviously, Pat can buy time. So
yeah,
it's a big hill to climb for sure. Tough
yeah.
environment
So
too.
at the end of the day, what's been the biggest knock on this defense is that they're slow, right? And this is the fastest offense probably in the
Big
NFL.
plays, giving up too many big plays.
Don't like it. If they're if you know
Yeah,
if your significant other, if her birthday is Monday night, I wouldn't skip the birthday dinner for this game.
go to the
I'll put it
movies.
that way. Yeah, yeah. Go to the movie somewhere where you got to put the phone off,
Exactly.
and just take it like a man. Just enjoy the dinner, have a great night out, and then come home and open up that 42-14 score, and just sit there sad in bed at the end of the night. That's what you should do. I tell you what, I moved my work. for the Bears game so I could watch that. I ain't doing that this time. I'll probably miss the first quarter of this one. But I ain't using the old got a migraine card to move this one around. It's just gonna be what it is. Nah, I played it above board. I played it above board. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Keys to the win: limit explosive plays on defense, protect the ball on offense. Pretty simple there, right? I mean, they're like we said, fastest team in the NFL on in terms of their weapons outside, and we've got some issues with speed. So keeping them from being able to just go over the top on us at will, forcing them to kind of stay underneath, which Pat has actually shown he will just happily do. Pat loves to just dink and dunk you all game, and I think that's going to be our only hope is defensively to just keep them in that dink and dunk mode and then hope like a ball hits off of somebody's hands and lands in Quan Martin's lap. Like we're gonna need something like that. And
Yeah.
protect the ball on offense. I would say you have no chance in this game if you don't win the turnover battle.
Well,
Um,
and I don't know that they're going to turn the ball over a whole lot. We definitely just can't give it back. I chose my wording kind of carefully on this one. I said limit explosive plays, not eliminate. And a lot of that has to do with making the play when it's there. When you've got the
yeah,
opportunity to make the tackle and not let them turn a 10-yard gain into a 50-yard gain, right? Make the play when it's there. I don't think you're going to be able to completely eliminate explosives. And if, look, they throw a long ball and a guy makes a great play on a contested catch, you tip your hat to him, right?
yeah,
But I think it's not allowing an explosive play because of something we did wrong, either a mistake or a missed tackle or one of those things, right?
yeah. It's limit is the only hope you have. I mean, I'm sure there's not really a lot of games where there's no explosive plays, right? Like it's going to be hard to just
Right.
completely eliminate it, but limit for sure. And yeah, I'll go as far to say, like, again, if you want to win this game, a game where, by the way, you are 11 and a half point underdogs, your only chance at winning this game is not only chance, but you're not winning this game if you lose the turnover battle. You're not. It's just not happening. You cannot give them extra possessions. So I know you don't want to like say, okay, we have to turn them over, but at the end of the day, you've got to do some unexpected stuff when you're an 11 and a half point underdog. So that's going to mean we got to turn them over probably a couple times and we got to protect the ball. That would be my like
100%.
we might need like a defensive touchdown. Like there's got to be like a safety like we had last week against Dallas. We've done Tress has done a really good job of kind of pitting and Percy Butler have done a really good job of kind of pinning teams back defensively. And so an
Or maybe a
opportunity
kick
like
return
that,
on our
maybe,
side, right?
yeah, kick return, something like that. So then which brings us to our next point, which is going to be sustain and finish drives on offense, win time of possession. Which yeah, you're gonna have to score and you're gonna have to not have these short three and out drives. I think if you have a short drive, it's gotta be because you had an explosive play and you scored quick.
Well, what's been
Um
killing us offensively, and you talked about third down efficiency, I think that, our defense isn't good. So every time I make this argument, it's assumed that I'm arguing that the defense is good. I'm not. They're terrible. But when they have stepped up and made a stop, a safety or a stop, you can go back and look at the Bears game and the Dallas game. There were multiple occasions where our defense forced a punt and we went three and out on the
yeah.
next drive. You can't do that. And and a sustained drive might not end up in points, even though I said finish. It may not end up in points, but at least it doesn't put your defense right back on the field against a great offense just to keep getting hammered. And so that is something that I think I've been disappointed with the offense because we know our defense isn't great. Our offense has, we're built in a way the offense has to be help the defense by keeping the ball,
Yeah.
right? And not just giving it right back to them every time, right?
Yeah. And I think the lack of weapons and options on offense has been a big part of that.
For
And I think
sure.
having Debo and Terry back, I would argue this might sound crazy, but I would argue in terms of being able to consistently and reliably move the ball down the field, having Debo, Terry, Bill, Ertz, and Mariota it might be more repeatable than having Jaden and Chris Moore and Luke
Oh yeah.
McCaffrey and Jalen Lane.
Oh
Like, and
yeah.
that's not because I think Mariota's better than Jaden, but that's because I think the drop off from Mariota to Jaden in terms of just efficiency and ability to manage the game and move the ball is narrower than the drop off from Chris Moore to Terry McLaurin, or from Terry McLaurin to Chris
Yeah, I
Moore,
think
you know?
if you had to choose the best chance to win this game, and you had to choose between Debo and Terry coming back, or them both being out and just having a healthy five, I think Debo and Terry coming back gives you a more better chance to win. Now, of course, you'd rather have all three,
Yeah.
without a doubt, right? Because I think, look, Marcus is an excellent backup. You got to lean into the things that he does well. He's not an elite passer like
No.
like Jaden. And that's the thing that I think the weakness is with Marcus. And that's why it's going to be imperative. But I think Cliff can scheme it up in a way that really plays to Marcus's strength. And you got to hope that that's the case, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. It's I think it's going to be interesting to see, but like I said, could be fun. And then the third key today is going to be find ways to pressure Mahomes, and I would expand on this and say keep Mahomes in the pocket. Find ways to pressure Mahomes and contain Mahomes. If we've seen the biggest the thing he's best at, he changed the NFL. The way that Steph Curry changed the NBA with his ability to shoot the three, Pat changed the NFL in terms of getting outside of the pocket, scrambling, and creating when defenses don't keep contained. There is a literal before Pat and after Pat. When if you watch a guy like Jackson Dart does not exist without Mahomes doing what Mahomes did. Like he has changed the NFL with what he does in terms of playing outside of the pocket, playing outside of structure, extending plays, putting that magician's hat on. I mean, it's stuff that you've said as we've watched him. We're both big fans of Pat. You've said as we've watched him, you've never seen before. You've been watching football for 20 more
he's
years
the
than I
best.
have. Um, so your only chance is you got to
He's the
pressure him,
best.
but pressuring him ain't enough because that's when he does his best
Yeah,
work is when
pressure
he's
and
pressured and can get
contain. Yeah.
outside. You got to play disciplined football, and the one thing that he's a little what you saw in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, and then you saw again in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, he tends to drop a little bit too deep. And if you can keep him contained in that deep drop, you can start to turn him over and force some sacks and kind of put them into trouble.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
going to be essential.
it's easier said than done. What I think you nailed it. What my thinking behind this one, and maybe I should have worded it a little bit better, was don't allow him to extend plays.
Yeah.
Force him into getting rid of the ball quick. Maybe you're not getting a bunch of sacks, but because he's tough to sack. But to pressure him, force him to get the ball quick. The question is, do we have the guys that can do that? And that's the scary part.
Well, some absolutely just, I mean, you want to talk about like cosmic timing, breaking news in regards to that particular key is that the Chiefs have ruled out their starting left tackle Josh Simmons for Monday night, as well as listed their starting guard Trey Smith doubtful. So they're going to be missing two
Helps a
offensive
little bit.
linemen. Not like we're not missing all our best defensive linemen, but at least it'll be practice squad versus practice squad out there, right? It'll at least
Well,
be a little
look,
more
I think
even.
we've been guilty of it too, and it's the other kind of glimmer of hope, right? Do they look past us? They come from an easy win. I wonder in a way, holding Debo and Terry out last week when they were both on the edge of playing, did we get a little bit ahead of ourselves thinking, well, we can beat the Cowboys without them?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes that thinking gets in a little bit. You've got, the Ravens holding out Lamar this week because they don't want him to play back to back Sunday and Thursday, which, that part I kind of get. But sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of that. And maybe the Chiefs are holding these guys out. I don't know what the severity of the injury is, thinking, well, let's rest them up for Buffalo. We can beat the Commanders without our top guys. And
Simmons is a weird. There's some off the field stuff going on with Simmons.
yeah,
That's a weird situation. I hope he's okay. I hope everything's okay. Um, Trey Smith, I think, is just a straight up injury, and he's one
And
of
we're
our
not
best
rooting
players.
for the
No,
best guys not to play, just to be
no,
clear.
of course not. But it's
But it's a
just
fact of life,
it's something to we talked about it going into the Chargers game, right? It's like they're missing two or they were missing three of their starting offensive linemen, and we saw we dominated in the trenches in that game because of that. Like it's a key factor. And
I
if you
think you
think
got
that
to. I
teams,
think you got to fly to Ashburn and massage Deron Payne's toe and get that thing ready to go for Monday.
I would do a lot for
It's a
this
big
team, but
toe.
touching Deron Payne's feet ain't part of that package.
I
That
will
ain't
hire
happening.
somebody.
Yeah, that ain't. I was thinking I'm useless. I can't do it. No disrespect to DP there, but
That was weird. It got weird in here.
it got weird in here. Pop threw one up. It was risky. That was a little Heineke pass right there.
Foul ball.
That was a Heineke one where like it hits the turf and you go, but it's second and
Hmm.
10 and you're okay with it, you know. uh, but moving on, man. Chiefs are 11.5 point favorites. What do you think? Do we cover? Do we win outright? What do you like, Pop?
Man, I struggle with this one. I was almost going to do the deal where I said I don't even want to pick the game, because what's the point? I really just want to talk about what we can do to get better. I mean, I will say this. I do think there's a path for this team to make a run. I'm just going to call it that, make a run, even with a loss in this game. I just want to
Yeah,
see them battle. That's my main thing. I'm not optimistic about them winning. So I was going to maybe do the bit like I did against the Chargers and pick the Chiefs, but 11.5 is just a little too much to give up. I'm just going to bet on our guys. I do still think the Chiefs win. I'm not optimistic. It could be a wheels come off the cart kind of situation. I'm just going to lean into the fact that we got Debo and Terry back. And, I think those guys not only are great players, I think they're great leaders. And I think those
yeah,
guys are going to lead this team. I think Marcus is more incapable of being a good pro quarterback and running this team. And I also think that we could definitely potentially see a resurgence of Bill in this game. So I think they'll, maybe it's a 10-point win for the Chiefs or, something like that. I still would pick the Chiefs to win, but I'll pick the Commanders on the points.
yeah. I don't know, man. You just lost 44-22 to Dallas, and I know it's a different circumstance with having Terry and Debo back, but I I don't think I can not lay the points with this defense until they actually show me on on the field, not in the press conferences, not on the clips of the all 22 days after we lost
So
by
you're
15
picking the
points.
Chiefs.
Not on it. Yes, I'm picking the Chiefs, but I could have
I
gotten
just
I could have gotten eight more words across to finish the point there. Tea time pop is a different beast, man.
no,
Pop's got to
I
get out
just
all the
I was
links.
clarifying. I wasn't trying
He's
to
had
rush
the
you. I wasn't trying to
he,
rush you. My bad. I was
Pop's
clarifying.
white knuckling the steering wheel of this pod, man. I love it. I love it.
I
It's
mean, we
all
are
good.
40
Yeah.
minutes in.
I do have the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs for your
I
clarification,
don't
just because
mind
I
it.
can't.
I like a little bit of reverse juju action. So, it worked for us to get with the Chargers, except I picked it the other way. I'm with you. And sorry if I cut you off. I apologize. It really wasn't my intent.
All good.
Um,
Just teasing.
um, it is hard. I mean, it's hard for me, and I'm typically the optimistic one to come up with a scenario where we win this one. But they have dropped three. They are not incapable of losing. I think what you want to see out of this game, this is going to be loser talk. Warning, spoiler alert. If we can compete, if we can show signs, if we can get the quote unquote moral victory out of this thing where we're not just completely disgusted and disheartened with the performance, I take that as an opportunity to build some momentum going into the following weeks.
Yeah, it's
But I don't see a path to get a win.
I can't play the moral victory game. It just brings back memories of Taylor Heineke and Ronald Eugene that I don't want to think about. But like I said, no better opportunity to do this thing right and to fix this season. And if you want to, you can't fix the season overnight. You can't take back the fumble against the Bears. You can't take back the blowout loss against the Cowboys. But no better opportunity to say, put all that behind us and let's attack. Let's remind everybody who we are. I'm looking at it. I'm like, we got to go 7-2 down the stretch. When did we start last season? 7-2. We can do that. We're capable of that. No better opportunity to do that than to start against Kansas City Chiefs Monday night. This would be
Beautifully
a
said.
real signature. And I mean, you could lose three straight after it, right? But this could be a signature Dan Quinn win if we can win this one and turn the season around on the back of it. So let's hope for that. I'm still taking the Chiefs, but let's hope for that. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thank you guys for another great week and hail to the Commanders.
Hell, let's get one.
Let's get one.